Everyone, thanks so much for coming out. I want to introduce you guys to Eric Chan, aka Eepmon. He's basically an amazing digital artist who's doing some crazy stuff at the intersection of art and code. He's traveled and worked all over the world, from Hong Kong to New York, and is here tonight to share with us a little bit about his story and his experience working with brands like Microsoft, Canada Goose, Mini Cooper. So let's give a huge round of applause to Eric.
Just keep it casual, you know.
Keep it casual. I'll get you a little foot rest, you know.
Yeah, good to see you. What's up? All right.
So let's start off by getting to know a little bit more about you. Where are you from originally?
Well, originally, I was born and raised in Ottawa, Ontario. My parents, they were from Hong Kong, and they came to Canada, or Ottawa, in the 70s. That's where I was born later on, and so here I am today. And ever since then, I've always been. I have an older brother, but I'm just the youngest kid, so I was probably more of the rebel and wanted to explore and do things. But sometimes a little bit hard when you're doing it in this sort of more of a conservative sort of environment. But all my life, I was always since I can remember, I always loved to draw. Drawing was the prime thing I always loved. It got me passionate and really got me going.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
So what was your early family life like? Like you mentioned your older brother, but were some of your parents or grandparents entrepreneurial? Where does that store? The artists, were they artists?
Entrepreneurial, maybe the fact that they actually immigrated to Canada. That's pretty bold, right? It takes a lot of guts to actually move your entire life into a new country. But other than that, when I was growing up, they did really modest jobs, right? Every person, and my mom worked for the government. My dad, he worked at the now defunct Nortel, or Northern Telecom, if some people know what the original name was. So I remember I was growing up, this is kind of like the, how I saw as success growing up was that, okay, you go and get a university degree, you get a good job, you get married, get happy, have family, happily ever after, that sort of thing. And I thought that view was success, and that was their view too. So that was something that, so I've always played it safe when I was growing up, I was never, and that being said, taking the bicycle out, I was not allowed to go off my driveway. The OC transit was completely foreign territory. I was like, oh my God, I'm off to another alien dimension if I were to take the bus because I don't know where to go. So it was really growing up to be very within a small circle of people and all that, but at the same time, I always loved to draw. And when I was in elementary school, or even just anywhere, Eric Chan was the guy to go to who could draw awesome Nintendo characters. Or Eric Chan was also the guy who would draw amazing Transformers. I was obsessed with Transformers, by the way. I was crazy. I learned how to grab, I would look at Optimus Prime or Soundwave, G1 by the way, they're the best. But I look at that stuff and I was like I would try to draw and articulate all the dimensions and all that. And actually, just step back a bit, probably more in the past, I remember I was completely obsessed with traffic lights. I love their colors, I love the way they change their colors. I always felt that traffic lights had expressions on their faces. Red means they were scared, so you have to stop. Yellow means that they're angry, so red means you have to stop. Angry was you better stop or else I'm going to kick your ass. And then green is yeah, go through, kind of thing. So my obsession with technology and art came at a very early age. Traffic lights, then came Transformers, and then of course when Nintendo came, I went ballistic, right? So that was it. I was always within the family compound. Going to school. Yeah. Should I talk about more about school, or is that?
Well, we can talk about that next. Yeah, I was going to say, what was it like during your, teenagehood and getting into college? So you actually went to Algonquin College in 2000.
Well, let's talk about high school.
Sure.
I went to Canterbury High School in the visual arts program. So I had a portfolio. I showed them stuff. That was the natural step. I got accepted. That being said, I always thought I was the black sheep. I was really the odd one out. Everyone loved to draw or paint with acrylics and oil. And they would paint, and it's beautiful. They would paint. They were really talented, these guys. They would paint landscapes, fields, the usual things, right? Landscapes. But at the time, Apple came around, and AI became in 1984, but they had the Macintosh. Canterbury had the first computer, or it was only one computer, and it had Photoshop version 2.0. And I was playing. I got onto this thing, and I was completely immersed. I was painting, whereas my colleagues, my camarados were like painting in acrylics and oil. I was painting in Photoshop, and I was like, this is crazy. That blew my mind because here we go for the traffic lights. Transformers, Nintendo, screen, interactivity, Macintosh, Photoshop, it's almost the same sort of like feeling. But of course, I never got along with I never felt that I was never like accepted as an artistic medium because it was so early back then. Like, what is art? How can you define art in a digital space? Like Photoshop, what is that? I mean, it's not a painting. Where's the value in it? So I came out of high school with no confidence. I didn't know what to do with my life. I was very angry because I just wasn't sure. I always thought that a career in art would be like painting for the rest of life, not make any a good amount of like money that would sustain me in the long term, right? So what did I do? I did 180 degrees. I have to thank my mom for this because she said, "Well, Eric, since you're into computers, why don't you take computer science?" I was like, okay. And my grades were really horrible, by the way. It was really bad. But I was fortunate to be accepted to Algonquin College's computer science, computer engineering, technology, computer science program. 3-year program with a co-op. And it kicked my ass, really. I didn't know how to code. I didn't even know what, like, why we have if statements, while state for loops. Freaking, why do we have a curly brace? Like, what are these things? What are these things? And fortunately, I had some great friends who taught me in how to program. That's what, and it was so it's weird where life takes you because where I went completely opposite, but I learned about the world of programming, learned how to think logically. Like I seem that I'm a type of person that likes to. I have to take a little more time to learn. I've realized I'm a very visual learner. I'm very applied. So as soon as I got my hands on programming, and then Java came out. No, Java's been around, but I learned Java. And one of the courses that really was great was Java UI programming, the swing components and all that kind of thing, right? One of our applications was to just create a calculator, and that blew my mind. Right? I was like, whoa! Like you could press buttons, and there was an event triggered. There's like these things, and then you based on the event, you listen to these things, and then you output it a result. Like there's no command line terminal. What the hell is this crazy? It looked amazing. So I loved that. I learned about that, Java programming and all that. And you could create something visual. That was amazing. And then afterwards, what happened? Like Flash started to come around, right? Flash days got really huge. Flash 3.
Those were amazing.
Those were amazing days, right? And I learned a lot. I think Flash was great because it really taught me how to combine creative, visual, design, the user interface, art, interactivity, music. How that you could really art direct the system. But yeah, man, I could go on forever. So I'm going to try to jump a little bit. So basically, what I was very fortunate to have the opportunity was co-op programs, and I don't know if they still do that today. Some places. But co-op, I would tell my mentees, look, if you have the co-op opportunity, you should really try that because what it did, it exposed me to a real-life working environment. At the time, I was working at Corel Corporation, and I was a user. I was a quality assurance specialist. So I was just testing programs. It was great. And but this is where the entrepreneurial part of me started to come in. Because in Corel, there was a group called the User Experience Design Team. And I always walked past it. And I'm like, these guys are really cool. They have the 2002 MacBook Pros and they have the iPads. But what they do is they design the look of the software. That's what I was into. That's what I learned from Java. And then on my last day of my co-op, and this is where life takes you sometimes because you just don't know where the opportunities come in. You least expect it. I decided to email, last day of my co-op, to email the manager of the user interface design group. He said, oh yeah, why don't you come over and then we'll have a chat. So I did. And at the time, again, I'm talking about, I had really zero confidence about my art or anything. But I was doodling in, actually Photoshop, but I had some designs, had some art, I was doing some. So I showed it to her, I go, hey, this is what I've done. And she was looking at it, she was flipping through. And at that time, I was thinking, well, maybe there's an opportunity to do a co-op next year for user experience. But the problem was is that, you know, computer science and user experience wasn't related. But then she was so impressed. She said, "You did this?" I go, I didn't think much of it. And she was so impressed that she immediately hired me on for the next co-op session. And that was 2003 at Carling Avenue, in February, very cold. And I was like, "Damn it, like Eric, like what I realized at that moment, I realized that do not let anybody tell you what you want, like what should be done. Like you should not allow people to tell you what you want in life, right? People may compliment you. People may say they hate your work. People think, well, you're going to fail. It doesn't matter if there's compliments or not. Like, you have to really learn to listen to yourself. If you are an artist and you really believe in it, and then you should really go for it, no matter who says what. So that was kind of like the first eureka. So after, oh man, how much recording is
How much recording? I don't know. A couple
Are you guys okay? Are you guys engaged?
Yeah.
All right, okay, so go on.
Yeah, keep going. No, keep going.
Okay, so that's Algonquin College, okay? Then I got my third call was at the Bank of Canada. Government, okay, I went there and long story short, I was sorry, Bank of Canada, Government of Canada, I'm like, this is lack of passion. I felt really like, oh my God, like, it was like there's no motivation. The creativity is draining out of me. And meanwhile, like I'm looking online and you know all these flash conferences, and flash forward, these rock stars are coming out and doing some really cool stuff. Like shit, like these guys are doing. So I was like, that's it. So basically, I had a stable job, good pay, good benefits. So I said, no, I'm quitting. I'm quitting. This is crazy. So I said to listen, I'm gonna get I'm gonna quit. And then what did I do? I went back to school. I did another 4 years at Carleton University at the Interactive Multimedia Design program. And it just started in. I think it was like we were the second group of people to graduate. But it was during a time when the industry realized that technology and design art, there needed a position that an individual that would understand how to communicate these different, what was seemingly like different silos. Someone who could actually bring them together. So I thought that was a great fit. You know, I got in the program, and then in 2005, that's where I started to realize, like, I started to mature a bit. I started to, do my own thing. I had flash gigs. I had some freelance stuff on the side, and that's when I started to realize, I should start my own brand. I should start Eepmon in 2000. So that was 2005. I was really bored in class, and this is how it started. I was really bored in class. I was like, oh man, I need identity, and it's like, I need something that relates to me. So I decided the word Eepmon, which I'll explain later what it means, but. To be the start of like identifying myself, who I am, what I do, and it's kind of like and how to reach out to the industry. But yeah, I attended to conferences, like design conferences that blew my mind. Okay. So people like design conferences or whatever, it's important. Like if you haven't been there yet, because you would network with you'll see the rock star or whatever. But these guys are very inspirational. They're really talented, and you kind of like wow. So when I went to Carleton University, I went to FITC, which is it used to be called Flash in the Can when Flash was really hot. And I was in Toronto, and I went in, and at the time, my Flash skills matured, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do a competition. I'm going to go for the Flash Student Award. I'm going to submit my portfolio to assess how well your portfolio looks like. And I got into I was a finalist. I was like, holy shit, can I swear? Yeah. I was like, holy shit. I was a finalist. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, that's cool. And then I got into Flash, and I met all the rock stars in the Flash industry. Yugo Nakamura, we had John Maeda, all these really top tier designers. I'm like meeting these guys, and I was like, wow, these guys are right next to him. Under one roof for 3 days. After the conference, I had the biggest headache ever. Oh my God, it was crazy. I was like this is crazy. I was like, I have seen that was my second eureka. I was like, incredible. So I realized this is before when new media was ever been like coined as a trend or a term. These guys are doing bleeding edge stuff, and no one really knows what to call it. So here I am thinking, well, back in Canada, but back in the day, I was using like Photoshop, and people are saying, well, no, that's not a legit form of art. I'm like, fuck you, because I'm like, holy cow, I can call it whatever I want. I don't care what people tell me, because this is these guys are doing it. There appears to be an interest in it. If they can do it, so can I. So that's how I started to be, moving forward with that, with Eepmon, creating things, going out there, networking, meeting people, continue to evolve, continue to work my own personal work, and yeah, so so here I am today.
There you go. Cool. And then there's a lot of stuff in between that we'll cover. So
yes. Sorry guys.
So right after those like design conferences though, like and tell us like where the name Eepmon came from. What does it mean to you? But like how did you get started? Like how did you go from a conference to actually launching your own brand, your own identity?
Yeah. Well, Eepmon is, first of all, it's a twisted name for Eepman, because I was born in the year of the monkey. So I really connect to my animal zodiac spirit, whatever you call it. But I really think, when I read it, I was like, damn, this is like on point. And I was like, and I love monkeys. Like I love monkeys. Like everything I do, because monkeys. There's also a story of Monkey King. It's just a philosophy about he's very adventurous, very mischievous, very likes to challenge things, and always likes to get himself placed into uncertain situations, uncertainty, the unknowns. But he seems to always thrive after when he encounters obstacles. And that's kind of like a philosophy that as Eepmon, is a reminder for me that this is what life is. Life shouldn't be something that should be stable, like within a certain box or silo, or in a safety net. Like the world is yours. If you can go out there, go to New York, go to Japan, go to Hong Kong, go anywhere, go to the Middle East. Like meet like-minded people that you feel that synergy, that connection with. They're out there. They're not just within the local community. I mean, at one point, like sometimes I was thinking, why come there's so many jaded people out there? They're so negative. But there are people out there. But the people they're out there, but you have to really hustle and persevere to find these people, because they're the same people thinking the same thing. And somehow the stars will align and you will find these like-minded people. And when you do, then you just kind of like, it's a bootstrap. You get empowered. You get empowered. It's not people say it's competition in New York. No, it's more empowering. I met some crazy, I was living in New York for like 4 years, and I met these amazing artists and designers, photographers. I was like, damn, these are crazy. I got people designers working at IDEO, Google Media Labs, people at Facebook, people from, artists who are doing amazing things with photography. And I'm like every single one of those guys had a hustling story, very persevering story that I'm like, I relate to that. And I'm like, wow, like that's amazing. And so I think that part of what I do, why I travel, why I go out there, it's not just about like finding opportunities, but it really is to really connect to this thing, connect to people, connect to the randomness of of what life has to offer, and as you do, you become more aware of what you want and who you are. When you say that when you do reflection, reflective, that's important. So it's something that I do now. So anyway, sorry, I went off tangent from in between it, but that's what Eepmon is. Eepmon's about traveling, exploring, and facing on the unknowns and head on. That's what it is.
So tell us a little bit more about, for the people who might not have seen your work just yet, and we'll see some stuff towards the end. Yeah. But like, what's your style? Where does your creativity come from? What inspires you beyond kind of those people?
Well, I'm inspired with a lot of there's a lot of new media artists out there who are using code and technology to create interesting work, like fractal works. I remember like I said, Yugo Nakamura. He's a Japanese new media artist. Who also did amazing Uniqlo. Uniqlo, the brand Uniqlo clothing? Mm-hmm. He did an amazing Uniqlo campaign and all that. And Joshua Davis, of course, he did all this fractal generative art to use code to express this super visual eye candy. But also inspired by a lot of really traditional artists that are not here today. Fortunately, being back in Carleton, I had the opportunity to take an elective. It's called East Asian Studies for Ming Tianpo. She's like my mentor. I love her. I still keep in touch with her to this day. And she is an expert of this post-war Japanese art movement called the Gutai. And what I learned from there is what the Gutai art movement, in a nutshell, so I apologize, Ming, is that their manifesto was about the medium, the artist and the medium should not overpower each other. They should actually be in a equilibrium. to achieve the heightened artistic experience, or to maximize the potential of the artistic medium, the art, whether the art medium, whether it's acrylic or whatever, and the artist should be shaking hands, such that the medium would then start to have its own voice, starts to cry out. So I really think that, and this is like, these guys are 1957. These guys are old school. These guys have been doing some crazy stuff. Like, I'm like, what? This is crazy. So I think that so that inspired me, because we seem to be falling in full circle with technology today. What is technology? How can we appropriate technology into, like, more creative ways, interesting ways? It's not just what people think of, like, oh, people are just like coding away, like coding or whatever. Like there are technology or code or whatever is an artistic medium. I think so. I really believe in this. So yeah. So Gutai art group is good. Solo Wit, he's another really classic artist who does these massive installations, really huge. But guess what? He doesn't even touch one of his paintings. His concept is that idea is king, and that I just need to write down the instructions and let the draftsman execute it, because I think that my idea is paramount. So I don't even need to touch the artwork. I don't need to paint the artwork. It's still legitimate. So you see these avant-garde artists at the time really thinking, cliche sounds beyond the box, outside the box. But these guys are doing it so long ago. Like, these guys are really pushing the envelope. So if they can do it, so can we, right? Like, seriously, right? There's no boundaries. So these are sort of the influences. So I get influences from not just artists, but just everyday stories of people doing things, life, traveling. They all different. They all, I guess, like, activate different parts of, like, my interest or my mind. So yeah. So I think that's what I like to do, and what inspires me. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I mentioned it earlier at the beginning that you've done some pretty big collaborations with, like, Canada Goose, Microsoft for the Xbox 360, Mini Cooper. First of all, how did you get to that level of partnerships with these big brands?
Okay.
And then kind of secondly, like, what have those experiences meant to you? Like, what has each one brought to you?
Great. Yeah. Good question. Okay. Well, first of all, let's talk about the latter. Like, the idea of what I realized that digital art, right? When people think about it, the immediate associated with mass production technology, therefore not valuable. Therefore, there's many times I will show my work and people are like, oh, great, is it painted? Is it hand painted? Because people still are affixed to the fact that if it's not hand painted or it's not drawn by hand, then it's not legitimate. Kind of like, it's kind of bogus to me, I think. So at the same, so I start to think, well, how do you qualify? Like, what do you have to do? Now, this is where the branding comes in, and I like branding because it's like strategy. It's like, as a digital artist, how do I make it so that when people see me, it's not like oh, this guy's like this is a digital artist, Photoshop's not really he's a fake. Who cares? Like, how do you position yourself to be at a level where you are you have quality? There's qualitative aspects to what you do, not quantitative. So I look at the industry today, and I look at major players that are doing very well in their field, and I realize that in the digital age, I think that artists have the opportunity to collaborate with different people, organizations, whoever, because I think that the digital age or the information age we live in expects that sort of thing. We can do that now. So I felt that, okay, well, I want to collaborate with key brands because I think that it would say a lot to what my position is at in the terms of how to qualify me or whatever. So I decided to how the Microsoft thing, how that happened was the whole Microsoft thing happened when I got a lot of exposure. I was in magazines or whatever, I was in blogs, and then I got approached by one of the marketing directors at Microsoft Xbox in Europe, and she said, "I love your style, I love what you do. Would you be interested?" And I really immediately like at first I saw the email, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Is this a spam? So I wrote back and I realized that, yeah, this guy was like, yeah, this guy's legit. And I was in Toronto, sounds weird. But I realized, yes, I think it would be great because Eepmon can collaborate with one of the top tier video game industries. Then I have an affiliation. Like, you know, I build a brand equity. I improve my brand equity because I'm affiliated with a respectable brand. So I can make that connection. I guess the Mini Cooper thing came around because how did that happen? That was through a contact through an agency, and I was like, yeah, I think Mini Cooper's cool. Like they seem to do very well in the automotive, and I would love to do collaboration with these guys. And then the agency thing happened because you know through networking and communication and all that. So it's funny. So I look back and I was like, so Eepmon, my core medium is digital art, but I was able to have a video game industry. I was able to have an automotive industry, right? And now to have these guys, it's important not to overdo it, right? For example, if an artist collaborate with with Microsoft, they wouldn't go and collaborate with like Atari or something, right? Because you would desaturate, you would question your authenticity. So I felt that since I have these, I think it'd be challenging. It would be cool to actually try to to collaborate with the key niche brands that speak to you. Like I love video. Like Microsoft speaks to me. It's like I love video games. Cars. Like Mini Coopers relate to BMW. Like BMW, like Mini Cooper. So like slowly. So it really started organically. But the most interesting one was Canada Goose, actually, because by that time I like to think I have a good portfolio standing. And how that happened is I just emailed them straight up. I go, look, like my name's Eric Chan. You guys are, I think that you guys are doing the best at what you're doing in this industry. You guys are top tier. You guys are made in Canada. We don't do enough Canadian collaborations, where you see a lot of people in the US doing Nike or whatever and all this crazy stuff, but we don't have enough collaborations in the Canadian front. And I like to think that I'm doing the best at what I'm doing in the digital front. So, so I basically proposed to them, like, why don't we do something interesting? So, of course, I didn't get an email back because he's busy, of course. But this is where I think the entrepreneurial side of things happen. You have to persevere. You have to update. You have to keep in touch. And the stars align and timing happens, and then suddenly, I get an email back from him. It's like, hey, listen, I really like what you're doing. Why don't you come to the Canada Goose head office and have a meet? So I was like, okay. And when it happens, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I book a Via Rail ticket in Ottawa to go straight to Toronto. I was like, this is crazy. Of course I couldn't do it. So and then I met with him, and that's when things start rolling, and we start having conversations. But one thing I learned, of course, is that never expect things to happen immediately. Things take time. Things take a long time. Sometimes it takes 3 years. Sometimes it takes 5 years. But I really believe that if you really want to get, if you really are, if you're really passionate and really want what you want to get, you can get it. But just know that it takes time. It takes patience. It takes persevering. That's no denying about that. I don't know, I could go on about the kind of Goose thing, but
what else do you want to add?
Okay. You guys ready? Woo! You guys ready? All right. Okay. Sorry, I don't want you guys to fall asleep or anything. But okay, so it's like a movie, man. It's crazy. Well, when I met with him, he's like, "Well, listen, we're not looking at collaboration right now." But at the time, he's doing stuff with Drake. He's doing stuff with like this Japanese artist Yuki Masuda. But he's like, "Well, listen, why don't you send me some sketches? We'll go back and forth." Okay, fine, I'm down with that. So we started to do some sketches, and I would throw him some sketches, and he'd go back and forth. And by that time, I was living in New York at the time, and it was out of a movie. So we met, we had lunch, we met at the Fairmont Hotel in Fifth Avenue. That place is ridiculous, like a decked out marble and stuff. Like, what the hell? This is crazy. But we had lunch, we had a great conversation, and then immediately he made that decision. Okay, you know what? I'm going to connect you with my team. I'm going to fly to Toronto. We're going to have the thing on. That was probably 2 years after we had the conversation. Maybe probably 2 years. took another year to actually develop it and to meet the team and all that. So I started to now get introduced by the Canada Goose team. You know, we start to develop a good relationship, and by that time we had some designs that were finalized, and then things start rolling, and then you know, I met all the people. I met the VPs for communication, global marketing, all the guys. They had a really core team, and then bam, like, you know, we had an amazing product, and we launched it in December 2013, and we made only 150 pieces. I'll show you this guy right here, and we sold out within like 2 days. It was double the price of an ordinary Canada Goose jacket. It was $1,200 US. It was crazy. It was 1,200 Canadian, but it was also 1,200 US, 1,200 pounds, 1,200 euro, and then whatever, 120,000 Japanese yen or something like that. So it was but it was sold at all the major retailers around there. So, are you guys familiar with Colette in Paris? Colette department store, Harvey Nichols across the UK. It was here in Ottawa, Ontario, Normal Clothing. It was here in Normal. And the people are sort of tweeting me, why isn't it in Toronto and Vancouver a week ago? Because I'm from Ottawa, Ontario.
I'm going to fly here.
Well, it's crazy. So we had it in New York City, in Rhyme store, but it sold out that people from the United States start calling Ottawa to ship stuff. It was a win-win situation. It was a great collaboration. So we did very well. But so now suddenly I'm in the fashion world. So automotive, video games, high-end fashion. And now and my stuff was in Selectivism, High Snuggiety, Complex Magazine, GQ, Nylon Magazine, you know, and it was like all the major suspects. So I think that it was interesting. So, but at the same time, like, my core was always in digital art. So having done that, I realized, you know, well, maybe I have a really good chance of being an individual who can represent the digital art space. Who are the pioneers of this movement? There's okay, very lofty, audacious goal here, but who are the Andy Warhols and the Takashi Murakamis of the digital age? Who are they? For the first time, I really believe that maybe I might have a chance in trying to continue that path, in trying to be an individual that, yes, maybe down the road, Eric Chan, what is the guy who understands the digital age? It's not just about binaries, but it's really about it's a global world. Right? Everything's grayed out. Everything you gotta, you know, you travel, you know what's happening. You need to know what's happening on the other side of the world. It's about bits and bytes. But who understands the era we live in today? So I hope that I am going in that trajectory as an entrepreneur, as an artist.
So one quick question for you. Earlier you mentioned that anything digital art seems to have lost some of its value, or some people perceive to have lesser value to something, you know, hand painted or whatever.
Yeah, still.
How much time do you spend on one piece?
A long time. Actually, that's the thing. Like any other artist, like, we can't really put a time on it. We don't know. We get lost into our own artistic world. We listen to music. We get inspired. We create things. If I put a number, maybe sometimes it takes a month. Sometimes it takes longer. Because sometimes I stop doing a series because I just didn't feel it, and then feel like doing it, and then later on it comes back to me, and I can rework on it. So it might take a couple of years. But at the end of the day, you're still using your right hand or left hand with a tablet or a pencil, drawing things to create a piece. So just like how photography was shunned in the fine art world, like, you know, back in the days, the painters would be like, why should I paint anymore? And now you can take the perfect picture. The painting's there, it's perfect. It's like complete. Why should I paint anymore? And now it's just recently that photography is now become accepted as a fine art. So I feel that digital art or creation in the digital space is come full circle in this respect.
Cool. And so, speaking of that, you know, losing the feeling or the inspiration, how do you manage as a one-person kind of team? How do you manage both sides of the business, the creative side of, you know, actually completing the tasks of the collaboration, and then the business side of, you know, sending emails, finding new clients, figuring out how to, you know, make rent? How do you manage both sides?
Well, okay. okay, my mind is really sometimes really spaghetti. But like it's like you have to. I mean, I think artists should never get comfortable. Never get comfortable. Because if you get comfortable, you know that there's something you got to start moving. If you realize, and I think it's like that in the industry. I think you might have felt at one point in your life you thought, man, like, this is something not right. Like I'm not happy with it. So for me, my drive is like I need to continue to evolve and continue to work on my personal work. I'm going to do new work. But at the same time, so I was fortunate to have some projects that fund my. It's like budget, you know. I have projects, you know, that fund my traveling. I can go there and meet specific people, go to specific conferences, meet people, and understand that nothing happens the first try. Something's going to be the second time, third time, fourth time in order to gain some sort of presence. You know, I was just talking to a guy. He's a good friend of mine, Gary Bott. He was in New York. He was here for New York Fashion Week, and he was also telling me that this in the fashion world it's like that too. We have trade shows. That's why there's trade shows. There's trade shows in Toronto, trade shows in New York, trade shows in Milan, all of them. And you have to boom. We got to go because it's really about you got to make sure that you are with the times with the fashion. You have to always be on point, so you can always continue conversation as you go. So it's part of the whole experience. But yeah, so sorry,
That's good.
I think I lost my train of thought.
Just managing both sides.
So you got to manage both sides. You got to go out there, work on your personal work, network, try to get uncomfortable, try to get yourself into unfamiliar situations, whether it's traveling to somewhere that you're not familiar with, and then meeting people and making new friends and really engage with these international communities. Or it's a balancing act. You gotta know how to really hit all the areas. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it earlier with like the trade shows, the design shows, the conferences, working here in Ottawa, New York, Tokyo, Hong Kong.
Yeah.
What is the creative community like in these different cities, and why do you go there besides besides the trade show? What draws you to these places?
Yeah. Okay.
And why come back to Ottawa every time?
Okay. So first of all, I travel to Asia often, and I love Japan. I love Japan because it is completely the culture and the way they see things is very how do I say it? Simplistic, very. Let's just say that you go to Japan, it's totally different from Ottawa, right? You got Buddhist shrines, you got kimonos, you got Zen Buddhism. There's the way they design things, the way they just like all these these visual cues that are completely foreign to me becomes a source of inspiration. So I continue to go there because it fuels that part of me that I'm yearning to explore, the exploration aspect of it. And I take it all in. And coming back to Ottawa because first of all, Ottawa is my hometown, but I like Ottawa too because it allows me to have some space to really, diffuse and really start to create things in my own way. And again, like I said, it comes back to the whole digital age, the whole digital aspect of it. It's like you no longer have to live. And it's good to. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You should go and travel and live in places 3 or 4 years, whatever. But for me, I realized that I'm at a point in my career where it doesn't matter where you live, because I'm always connected anyway. But I have to, and Ottawa is in a really good position right now because, because where it's located is only 45 minutes to Toronto, 1 hour and a half to New York. You got to go to Los Angeles or Vancouver. It's still going to be 5 or 6 hours anyway. It doesn't matter if you're Toronto, Ottawa. So I think, but also Ottawa as a community, I think it's starting to grow. I lived here most of my life, of course. I was born here, so I've seen that there is something happening. There's something bubbling out of this creative space in Ottawa. So there's a lot. I think that there's a lot of potential coming out of here. So that draws me in too. But yeah, so it's and of course if there's a way for me to give back to the community, then yeah, it goes full circle. So I think it's great. I think Ottawa has the right conditions.
Awesome.
But it's happening, but it'll get there. So if I can, and people don't really know me actually. People don't really know me, but if I can somehow indirectly contribute to the success of the auto community or creative space, then at least I've done something to help build it up. But yeah.
Write a letter to John Oliver. We'll start there. You're actually working on another new project right now called Queen's Cafe.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that. What's that about?
So Queen's Cafe is based in Hong Kong, and and it's, how do I say this? So it's like it's going. I think it's going to be like the Starbucks of Asia, actually. So they are based in Hong Kong. They've been an establishment since 1952. They've been around for a long time, and they've been the trusted people who make really quality products, cafes, bakery, cakes, and all that. So my friend, who so happened we were high school friends back in Ottawa, he's back in Hong Kong, but we kept in touch, and he always tells his mom, we call her Big Boss, because she's very tiny, but she's like, we respect her. But she keeps on telling me, Eric's been doing some great thing. So I had a chance to meet her, and I'm now the creative partner for Queen's Cafe, because now they're at a point to expand their brand. So I'm helping them to expand the brand beyond just a cafe, but to also into products, merchandise, wear, cups, see that stuff at Starbucks. And I just recently designed the Queen's mascot, which is a big hit. People love it. And I was in Asia, back in May, and we just opened a new Queen's Cafe in mainland China, Beijing. And it's so far been really well received, and I continue to build a relationship with these guys. We continue to work together as we go. So there's a lot of stuff going down on that. So it's really interesting. Coming 10 years in September, coming September is going to be 10 years at Eepmon. And it's nice to see that now I can take that experience and actually now put it towards to something that I think that I totally have the confidence to really handle this creative aspect of creativity, branding, design, and all that kind of thing. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the point that you've been doing it for 10 years, because I wanted to ask you, so now that you've done these different collaborations, and now
2005, man, it's my first 2005, Eepmon started fishing 2005, you know where? At Memories Restaurant in Bowery Market. And then exhibition.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
So what does success mean to you now? What does success look like? What's the next step for you too?
Okay, success is I'm going to try to explain this, but basically success is not about, the monetary aspect of things. Okay, I think a lot of people tend to it's really about, success is you have a goal in mind, okay? It could be the most audacious goal, a very, very crazy ass goal you could ever have. But success is defined as you following your path, persevering, going at each step of the way to reach that goal. And these milestones, these challenges, these obstacles that you face in life, they're there, but they're there because they're there because you have to overcome them. And if you overcome them, you get to know more about what you're capable of. You get to know about who you are. You grow thick skin. You know about growing a really strong intuition, okay? And these steps, as you keep on going further, that's being success. Nothing can be as great as knowing that I did this to get to there, and I know that this will help me get to the next step. And I always believe that everything that you do there's a reason for everything you do. So there might be trials and tribulations. You will fail. You will succeed. There'll be small wins, big wins, really bad failures. But this is all part of the life path that each and every one of you take to do and pursue what you want to do. We all go through this. But success to me, that's success to me, because you hustle and you take the burn, or you just get that sort of momentum is what drives me. And that's what I see as success. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really well defined, well explained.
Well, we talk about the whole string theory and the whole universe thing, and everything is but it's but I really think that at every infinite point in time that you live is you have so infinite ways of choosing your path. And to think that you only have one life, what are you going to do? You're going to just be comfortable? You should really move forward and get uncomfortable. Get out there, because we all have a finite time, right? The universe, it's out there. Just go get it. That's why I believe it. Sorry, I'm getting quasi-science now, but that's why. But I really believe that it's just like that's the entrepreneurial spirit that I speak of. That's what, and you meet other people who understand that. And on a side note, what's really funny? Well, not really funny, but it's something that's like, when I have conversations with people sometimes, immediately we talk philosophical. We talk about philosophy right away, because we understand how the world works, and then I get you because I feel you, because I know we don't talk about business. We talk about this is like, when you have that sort of engagement, you know that you're at a level that you feel like content and very confident of like where you're moving in your industry. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you've talked a lot about digital art and some of the mediums and some of the tools you use. Where do you think the industry's heading? You talked about it coming sort of full circle, and it's about to really break through. What do you see happening in the next 5 or 6 years in the space? And what are you adding to your craft every day?
Oh boy, 5, 6 years down the road. Well, with technology now, it's like it's an open book, right? I mean, everyone's talking about AI and stuff like that. Just imagine of what you can do creatively with having artificial intelligence to do collaborations with these robots and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, it's really hard. It's really hairy. It's a really hairy area to discuss. But I think AI, augmented reality, all those sort of things are just prime real estate space to explore creatively. Like haptic technology is we're right next door to that, and we actually simulate material, touch and all that. Like it's going to be like Matrix or something. I think you might have recently read about an article about the whole AI thing, and people there was a big sign, a big petition about we got to be very careful how we appropriate technology, and frankly it could be the next Terminator thing going on. So it's like sci-fi. It's sci-fi coming to real life. We are at this point now where we have to be very careful. We have to realize that these things are real possible potential threats and all that. So let's not talk about creative space. Let's talk about where the world's going. It's we haven't we have to be careful, because we have as humanity speaking, we haven't really figured out ourselves how to attain world peace. Add an AI in the whole mix, man. I don't know. It could be a whole we're in trouble, man, big time. Be screwed. And people get this technology. We can So I don't know. It's we have to be very cautious in where we head. We head towards in the future. All I say is we just got to be very mindful in the next 5 or 10 years down the road with what we're capable of. Yeah.
So what's next for you in the short term, over the next year or the next 2 years? Any more collaborations? Anything cool on the horizon that you can share with us?
Well, I don't know. Okay, I can't
share.
I can't share, but 2016 is going to be crazy. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of more collaboration coming. More in the fashion industry, and it's going to come sooner than you think. So we're doing more stuff over there on that front. But of course, I'm going to be launching some more new personal work, more personal art. I'm going to Asia end of September, back to the Blue Queen stuff, and I'm going to hit up with all these other dudes over there to see what's up. But again, it just never ends, right? It never stops. The cycle continues. It's kind of this is the thing. It's kind of bootstraps, and you do it again. You travel, make a network, create your art. You continue to go. And it becomes a more thicker layer, because you continue to build yourself that way. So the next year, next 2 years, 3 years, I'm going to continue to do what I do. But I think that having looked at the past 10 years, I can say that what started as a little loop has become very, very complex and very more layers and more intricate and very more layers involved, because I've continued to do it. I've continued to persevere. I've continued to build my network. But we'll see. 2016, get ready. It's going to be crazy.
It's coming.
It's coming
faster.
So if you guys are on Instagram and all that, then please, if you can follow @Eepmon, be happy to follow my adventures and whatnot. And
Cool. So I'm sure everyone's got tons of questions for you.
Yeah.
Did you want to do your
do
a show and tell first, and then we'll get to Q&A, so you guys can see some of what Eric's been working on.
So if anyone going to Toronto anytime soon, The Design Exchange Museum in the Distillery District, you have a pop-up, and this jacket is in the exhibition, and it's about fashion and sports, so you can check it out. So this is the synthesis parka, and I designed the jacket, the material outside, inside, and the Canada Goose were, of course, the experts to actually execute it. It is a very unique parka because we have the fur ruff with the hit, and it's almost black on black. We got the Eepmon logo. It's co-branded. We got the Eepmon logo in the back. And it's very functional. So when I work with these guys, we have, of course, I have to respect, that these guys are a functional brand. They are the best at what they do, and I'm bringing the best at what I do. Got the zippers here, Canada Goose, Eepmon, my mark here. But yeah, it's got a lot of pockets, breast pockets. We got even the hood's detachable. And we have a special colored Arctic disc. Now, does anyone know what this means, like what this map represents? Does anyone know? Well, this is actually the inversion of the North Pole. If you look at the North Pole map and you invert it, it's actually the contour is actually this shape. So I chose, does anyone know why I chose red, green, blue? RGB.
No.
RGB on a computer screen. And white is because when RGB is at 100%, you get the white pixel. So it's a story, it's so embedded. The story is inversion of North Pole, you touch the entire world, the digital age touched the entire world. That's the story behind this. And when you open the jacket, of course, the secret is revealed. The Eepmon Canada Goose, and then you have the artwork here. And this is a Canadian story here. This is a Canadian multicultural story that I created. Trillium on the bottom left is the Ontario. It's the birthplace of Canada Goose. And yeah, here. We have the Eepmon characters, my crazy characters, my guys. I like shrimp tempura, so I have a shrimp tempura here. I was born in the year of the monkey, so I have a monkey face here. There's 9 geese, and the reason why I choose 9 geese is in Chinese or Asian paintings in general, there's like 9 koi fish or carp, and it represents happiness, longevity, and prosperity in Chinese culture, or Asian culture in general. We have the maple leaves that fly across, changing the seasons. We have the line here that represents the Governor General. And the very detailed motifs here is kind of like the interior of the Parliament of Canada. This is like super detailed on it. So this is like all these little stories come together to be a cohesive narrative, visual narrative about who Eepmon is, basically. Awesome. There's that here. So we made 150 of these, like I said. Wax exterior cotton. There's that here. And I'll show you some of my latest pieces I made. Who's a Star Wars fan? Anyone a Star Wars fan? Yeah.
It's like
we're gonna watch Star Wars 7%. It's going out. But I did some portraits of Star Wars in my art form. And I'm doing this new style. It's very very geometric. I'll show you here. Yeah, we can hold it. Oh, it's okay. These are the samples, but we'll just open. So this is Darth Vader. And it's hard. It's black on black, but this is all vector, by the way. So you can scale this baby up as big as you want. I want this to be huge. But this is Darth Vader here.
What's the interior? Like, what's it made out of?
This?
Or what's Darth Vader made out of? The mask?
The mask? Oh, that's just different shapes and lines and shapes and metal parts, inspired by Gundam and those animated robots. So I was back to Transformers again, right? It's kind of weird. We're like, I just realized that it goes full circle. But yeah, so I it's like putting Lego pieces together and kind of form like Voltron, but in a very very intricate way. So this style
and you have them all up on Instagram too.
I have these are. I only have 4, but I have all of them on Instagram and website. C3PO. And yeah, I mean these are you can, if you want, you can get these prints off my site too. You could you could purchase them and whatnot, so they're online. through the Eepmon store, not to promote it. Like, I don't really care, right? But I just do it because I love to do it. That's the bottom line. I mean, if you want to buy, you can, but it's like, you know, I just big fan of that. Yeah, we'll put this up here. R2. This is him in the cockpit. You know, there's a this is in the ship or something. Again, all vector. Okay. And last but not least, I have good old classic Star Wars Stormtrooper. So yeah, so this is the thing, right? You create these things, and then I got some people interested, and I went to New York, and I met some people who showed these things. They're like, "What the hell is this? It's crazy!" And then you never know. You never know what sort of opportunities can come out of it. But because of this, I've opened up some dialogue for some potential things down the road. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know, but at least first contact is always important, right? So. So that's that.
So leave them there.
Yeah.
You can sit.
Yeah.
Sit here, grab some questions, leave those guys.
I can stand up and do this, yeah.
Do this.
Do that.
Great, sit here. Okay, so who's got some? That was a good show and tell. It was awesome. Man.
Thank you.
So,
Hope it's okay. I hope you guys can fall asleep. Sorry. It's a long day. Thank you for coming. Thanks.
well, so does anybody have any questions for Eric? Let's start with go ahead and Robert.
It's a little bit deeper than talking about Star Wars, but I know you like philosophy. Do you ever consider power and controversy with art? When you look at someone like Ai Weiwei, who's things like that, do you ever think about that space?
I have, but if it's not, I feel that also I shouldn't go in that space because because it's not who I am. Like I find that I realize that I'm more of an optimistic and a very, very positive sort of like creator of things, and I think that people like Ai Weiwei and these other people would probably do a better job what they do to really talk about discussing a discourse about the political things that are happening in China and whatnot. But for me, I guess where I think my strength is that it would be more on the aspirational and optimistic side of like how the world can come together in a more positive space. So
the flip side is there's the negative, controversial type power, and then there's branding, marketing type influence and power. So you're kind of on that kind of.
Yeah, so I seem to be more on that palette because I think for me, like doing these things are exciting. I think this is like this creates new sort of a new dialogue between individuals and corporations, but still maintaining a low, like kind of still maintaining a down to earth approach to creativity and people and doing stuff like maybe what I do maybe perhaps I bring in one perspective of a corporation as not being so evil as some people might think, but really at the end of the day are people like you and I who work in corporations, who work in companies, but an artist is able to bring out qualities or positive qualities out of like of these brands and whatnot. So I don't know. Like so for me, I've just always been going towards my own like gut feeling and intuition, and I think that my strength is really doing something that's maybe at least at this point in time, not so much about politics or issues, but more something about how do I make people happy at the end of the day? I'm always looking for put a smile. If I put a smile on someone's face, then at least I know that I've done something where I'm good at. Yeah.
Next question. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this is a question kind of about clients and getting like bigger and better clients.
Yeah.
I guess it's like a two-part question. So my first question is, like, how long did it take to get like your first big client? And another question would be, when you're trying to get like bigger clients, how do you kind of let go of the smaller clients? Yeah.
Let go of the smaller clients? Maybe?
Yeah, and
interesting.
in terms of like pursuing like your dream kind of job, like I'm trying to pursue like fashion instead of like I still want to do design, but I also want to pursue like fashion
Yeah.
and like that kind of entrepreneurial thing. But like just recently, I spent like several all-nighters just trying to please my clients, but also do the things that I have to do for the company that I'm trying to start up. And like, I was like, do you have advice for like, or I guess like, how long did it take for you? Like you said, you quit your like stable job to pursue your art career, but like, how long was that process for you to kind of like, how long did you dwell on whether or not you should just drop it and kind of do your own thing?
Okay, so let's go back to, sorry. First question was,
About, like the clients and like,
okay, clients. Okay.
how long did it take?
Sorry guys. So basically, I think, well, just like everybody else, like you gotta start local and you start doing work. And because I came from more on I seem to have a lot of clients doing web stuff. I had a lot of web projects, Flash projects, and then suddenly I discovered, like, and slowly that kind of morphed into, I could actually do some, I can do some programming and bring it to the art world. But like, and then some people were like, oh yeah, we like to do some poster art for our, for our events, or I have some artworks I would do local exhibitions. Like I said, my 2005 exhibition was at Memories Restaurant. Like, 3 big pieces. I spent like $300, $400 to really do a really nice, try to do a really nice exhibition, very local. But then I knew, once that happened, and I knew that there was an audience and people expressed interest, I got into some, some local newspapers, Ottawa Express, right? Remember those guys? And like, what else there? Like, very local stuff. So, but then, you slowly build that way. But at the same time, because then I started to realize, oh, there seemed to be an audience that was receptive to my creation. So why don't I go to Toronto and maybe hit up some other like design firms or people. So it's a very step-by-step progression. And then at the same, and you gotta be a go-getter. You gotta, like, well, I'm gonna go and hit up some magazines and computer arts. Computer Arts magazine, Beautiful Decay magazine. I literally went to Chapters and looked at all the design magazine and find all the email addresses. I did that. I literally looked at all their stuff and I wrote it down so I could do an email blast and go, look, check out my work. Most people will not reply. Some people will. I get in a blog. I get in Moco Loco. I go whatever. Got to Josh Fear. But then the fact that people didn't reply, it's not the end of the game. Do it again. Repeat. Like the idea of repeat, that you got to persevere. You got to, and then continue to be hungry to find new opportunities. Get into competitions. You have to put that effort. So that's how it started to grow. And then the big client happened because I did all of that. Suddenly I was in, I don't know how the Xbox, I really think the Xbox collaboration came out of because he's seen my work at a blog called Josh Fear, which is, at the time, it still is today, a very influential blog. He's based in New York. I think that's how it happened. I'm not sure. But because I was in some notable blogs because of what I've done, that, yeah, bam, suddenly I had this, could be timing, luck, or it's talent, or whatever, but that's how it happened. And then one thing led to another. So and then the idea of like not doing, like, your second question about dropping.
Yeah, kind of like dropping clients to like pursue.
Well, yes, well, you have to find a balance, right? I mean, like, at the time, I still do like local client work, right? Because it pays the bills, right? It pays the bills. I mean, it's up to you whether you want to put it on your portfolio or not, right? I mean, you could. Like, that's when you realize that you work on the project, it pays the bill. I did a lot of Flash projects, but I don't put it on my website. You go to my website right now, I don't put any more Flash projects anymore because it's pretty much obsolete now. But yeah. So you got to find that balance, right? If you know it's going to pay some bills, you're going to pay the bills. And then you get that one lucky strike and get a big project, bam! Then you exploit the hell out of that. Then you go, yeah, I want computer arts on top of that. I want the video game industry on top of that. I want Ottawa to know about that. I want freaking Toronto about that. Then you focus your energy to market that. But in the meantime, you still do your local stuff. It's fine. Yeah.
No.
So I work in textiles and I run a couple of fashion brands with upcycled materials. And I find it really hard being in Ottawa because we're not in a textile hub. And I was wondering, in your experience, do you feel like you have to leave and be successful in order to come back? Or were you able to build a really strong career, you know, using
Like I said, I think
Ottawa's
it's,
base?
yeah, I think it's important to, it is important to leave. There's no harm in that. There's no harm to leave because, I mean, to really, to grow, you can't just stay in a silo, basically. Like if you're from Toronto, don't stay in Toronto, go somewhere else. If you're living in Tokyo, don't stay in Tokyo, go somewhere else. Sorry man, I got a camera appearance. But like Ottawa, it's the same thing with Ottawa, you know. We leave because we want to find a truth. We want to find more about what we really want to do. And by exploring these things, and that's the natural way of doing it. And yeah, that's why I went to New York. I went to Vancouver for a couple times, but in Vancouver, I decided in New York, I'm curious about this place. I hear a lot about it. I'm not being challenged enough at the moment. I'm going to go and explore that. I'm going to find out what's going on in that area. And that's how it happened. And I came back because like I think it's like at the end of the day, it's really about what you want, like, individually. You know, being back in Ottawa, like, for me, it fits for me. It may not fit for everybody, but yeah, I think that to grow, you have to get out there. You got to go out there. You got to get your feet wet, get uncomfortable. And the textile industry, whether it's in Toronto, Montreal, or wherever, yeah, go over there. Like I also like textiles too. Like every time I see these documentaries about Japan, about the kimonos and how they do their dye and indigo process, and how they like. I was in Fukuoka, all the way to one of the most western parts of Japan, and I actually tried these very traditional textile, like this old machine, and I was like blown away. Like these sort of experience, right? Like, you can't do it here. You have to go out there and really immerse yourself in that, and then I don't know wherever the path takes you, but you will learn, you get inspired, and you meet people, and then sure, if you decide that you've got a lot of experience, come back to where you want to come. You know, Ottawa's always here; it's not going anywhere, and I encourage it. I think we need more people to do these sort of things, because that's what being entrepreneur is about, right? It's not just within local. I like to think global when it comes to what we do, and I think we can do it. Definitely. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question.
No, that's good.
I just had a question about, because you are a digital artist, right?
Yeah.
So you do work on a computer screen, and then you have to translate that artwork to a printed format of some sort. So whether it be the Canada Goose project, where you're translating it through manufacturing methods to actual fabric, or whether you're putting it on canvas.
Yeah.
Does that inform your design? Like when you're...
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's what I love about it. Because
Right.
I think 360 when it comes. That's what I love about, as a digital artist, what I love about the collaboration is that, like, especially in the fashion world, it gives me a tangible access. It brings my work into the 3 dimension. And I find like I like to think spatial. So when I think about my art, I don't think about just my art. I think about the whole thing. Like, what does it look like on the shoulder? Or what does it look like inside? How big do I have to scale it up? What is the design of the garment? How they cut everything? Yeah. So I think, yeah. I mean, so the artwork is one thing, but I also keep in mind of like where it's going to be applied to, and how to do it the right way so that it doesn't look like crap. But it has a look like it's like a sculpture. At the end of the day, this collaboration, I don't think this is a jacket. I see this as a sculpture. I see this as a work of art sculpture, like a 360 thing. It's funny, the Canada Goose guys are excited about my artwork. I'm not so much excited about art, I'm more excited about the jacket itself. So that sort of idea, that sort of in-betweenness is important, right? Because I value my artwork, but I also value as much as their process and their execution. And that's how, and they think the same way. So there's when it comes to, sorry, I'm getting off a tangent here, but when it comes to the idea of collaborations, like, there's no ego at all. Like they come to me, Eric, we have to change this part of the art, because it's like, can we do it? I'm not gonna be like, oh, no, man, franchement, like, no way, man, it's gonna be crazy. I would definitely, like, yeah, that's how can we work together to make this a really awesome work of art. Yeah.
How do you manage those expectations with clients in a corporate world when you're an artistic creative?
I've been fortunate enough that, okay, like, that being said, I haven't done a lot of collaborations, but I've been fortunate enough that they approached me with respect, with professionalism. So if there is any sort of like alteration or sort of thing that would involve with the artwork, they would approach it with, you know, like, we thought of all the options, but we really believe that this is the right angle because, you know, the cut, the seam, and all that kind of thing. And I think back, I think, well, I mean, you got to cut my artwork, but at the same time, I mean, they've tried their best to really try and find the right way to minimize the artwork being whatever, right? So, so that's how. So I've been very fortunate to people who understand me. So it's good. Yeah. In this world, I think it's very dangerous too. I mean, there's a lot of people who will try to exploit and all that. So I've been fortunate to be with nice people, I think. But they're all good. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Eric? Yeah. Cool. Well, let's give him a big hand.